Back and counting down. Starting in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 27th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game This Morning's Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Alan Wake will get out of bed for DLC and New Game Plus, and Sony defends its PS Plus price hike. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game This Mornings. It's Jason Fanelli, everybody. Jason, how are you doing?
I am very, very good. Beginning of the week was not great, thanks to my baseball team, but we have recovered. We're over it. We're done. We're on to football. Yeah, and of course, games. Plenty of games.
I want to get your opinion. Is the bank still the toughest place to play? You think? Is it a little bit of a chink in the armor there? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the crowd was not the reason for it.
Sure,
I think the team is what let us down. They forgot how to hit. Pitching did its thing, but this high-powered offense just went south. They forgot what small baseball is, and Arizona made them pay for it. Yeah. Because every time Arizona got a guy on first, he stole second, and the next batter or two, he had scored a run, especially in that game 7. And it killed me. Absolutely killed me. It's not, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just finish up your thought, because I was going to shift it over to my sports teams.
Yeah, it's not so much that they lost. If it was highly competitive 7 games, I'd have been fine with it. But as Ham Sorrow so casually reminds me in the chat, they choked. Yep. They flat out gave it up. You don't go up 2-0 and 3-2 with the last 2 games being in your home field, the impenetrable fortress, as you said, and lose. You just don't. You just don't.
Yeah, it's rough. I saw a bunch of Phillies fans having a real rough early part of this week. I'm glad you're recovering. Hey, your football team's very good. I'll tell you what, I was in a great place with sports like a week ago. And then the Lions got demolished, just completely embarrassed, which was rough. The Red Wings were doing really great. They're doing really well, and really they're still outperforming expectations. So I should be happy. But I was like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And of course, then last night they get beat 4-1 by a Winnipeg Jets team. That's okay, not great. And then of course, the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh God!
Yeah, it's like, hey, they're cheaters, bunch of cheaters. And I'm not going to go in and defend sign stealing, but I didn't care about it when it was a team that's not my team, the Patriots. I'm like, I don't care about this. So I definitely don't care about it when it's the Wolverines. Just fucking stop them if they know what you're going to do. But whatever. So we'll see what that's going to end up being. So yeah, it was like top of the world. I was like, man, best sports city in the world, Detroit. They got everything going for them. And then I am paying for my hubris now. Exactly. Yeah. Just immediately down the tubes. We'll see.
That is the Philly sports experience in a nutshell, too. I completely understand.
Listen, I'm not too worried about the Lions. They got beat up real bad. I think they're going to bounce back and be okay, and probably be able to make the playoffs. I always said if they win a playoff game, that is the goal for us. So we'll see. All right, we got a lot going on. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Alan Wake 2 gets details for its expansions and New Game Plus. This is from Cameron Woolsey at Destructoid. Alan Wake 2 launches this week, and developer Remedy Entertainment has detailed post-launch content, including 2 expansions and New Game Plus mode. The first expansion, Night Springs, is reportedly arriving sometime in spring 2024. Taking place in the eponymous fictional TV show, Night Springs has you play as several familiar characters from the world of Alan Wake. Visions and Dreams, this is the other one, I believe. Fiction is written and coming true. Fiction collapses and remains just words on a page. So this is like them trying to describe it. The Lake House is the second. This is actually the second of the Alan Wake 2 expansions to get detailed. There isn't currently a release window, but it sounds like more of a continuation of the base game story. You once more take on the roles of Alan and Saga in their own respective stories. I haven't finished Alan Wake 2 for the people that I have talked to. They're very happy with what happened in there. So I don't get the sense that this is like, oh, this will be the real ending. But I also get the sense from Remedy and Sam Lake and the storytellers over there that they always have more that they want to do with these characters. Sounds like that this is going to be an exploration of that. Are you someone who's into DLC? Are you happy to hear that Alan Wake 2 is going to have more?
Anything more from Remedy at this case, I will take it. Please, sir, may I have some more? They just, I am just starting Alan Wake. I'm actually reviewing it for MMORPG.com. Code came in a little late for me. Plus, this week, Phillies, AEW Wednesday, Flyers Thursday. I've been around.
Real week.
So I'm just getting into it like a couple hours in, and I don't do horror well, so I'm really not sure how this is going to go for me.
It's spooky.
But this. The fact that they have these plans ready to go and they'll come out like they did, it's very much like Control was. And Control was one of my favorite games of that year, 2019, I want to say. Just an absolutely phenomenal storytelling and all that. I expect the same here, especially with all the glowing reviews. And yes, I think it's a very bold decision that they're recreating the 2006 Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock rom-com, The Lake House, in the second DLC here. That's amazing. And the fact that movie actually deals with time is very interesting. But I don't think it's
I mean, listen, if any video game developer could tackle that tough movie adaptation, it's going to be Remedy.
That's true.
The other thing here is New Game Plus is coming, and they said it's not coming at launch, but they do suggest. Here, I'll just read it. Remedy will release a New Game Plus mode for Alan Wake 2 after its launch. It sounds intriguing. The mode does the usual New Game Plus thing and lets you take all your weapons and upgrades, but comes with a classic Remedy twist. It changes the story by some unknown degree. This is a trend in games, Jason, where developers are like, hey, yeah, we're going to include New Game Plus. It's going to come relatively soon after we release the game or right at launch. And when you hop into there, it's not just going to be the same game again. We will be shifting things up. And clearly, I think at this point we can credit most of this to Nier Automata being such a success, being kind of influential at this point, and then a lot of games taking this and doing a lot of fun stuff with this. Just this year, it was Armored Core 6, Starfield. And now this will have New Game Plus modes that are they're like New Game Plus Plus. They're a little bit more than what you would even expect from traditional New Game Plus. I love this. Not someone who's spent a lot of time with New Game Pluses, but I started playing the Armored Core 6 one and immediately was just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to keep going with this. And I only got a little bit of the stuff that was kind of changed up a little bit. And obviously you could do the different choices later in the game. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this, especially in a day when it seems like, there's a million games come out. And at the same time, a lot of people are just sticking with their favorite games and playing them over and over again. So this is great for them, right?
Yes, I agree. And I'm not a New Game Plus guy myself, usually. Once I'm done the game, I'm done the game. But if they're going to start putting narrative elements or other expansions to the full normal experience into New Game Plus, I think that may change in the very near future. I love this idea. I'm right there with you. It actually makes it seem like New Game Plus.
Yes.
Before it was just, you get to blow through the same game you already played. Now they're actually adding things to your second playthrough to increase that playability, to make you want more. And especially in this case, if there's narrative changes with the way that Remedy tells their story, it's going to be, little lore bits here and there, people by dissecting scenes for months. Gimme. I'm all about it.
Yep. I every little thing I hear about Alan Wake 2 on top of like what I've played of it, just like, man, got to get more and more of this. They are doing some cool stuff. The teases of, hey, they're going to get pretty meta and here's how it's going to happen. I'm like, okay, I got to see that for myself. So if they continue to play around with those things in New Game Plus, that's excellent. This game does seem like Remedy is stepping up to the plate and really hitting it, right? Where they've had their chances in the past, and I think Alan Wake originally was them like, hey, we're going to establish ourselves as more than just the Max Payne people, and we're going to be able to show off our strengths and show that we have our own sort of voice in this space. And I think all that stuff worked. But since then it's been, is Quantum Break going to work? And obviously Control's like Control. Whoa, that was surprising. And now to have Control and this sort of string together, not just hits, but like them once again establishing that their voice isn't just, oh, it's interesting, it's sort of vital. It's like, we need this in gaming. I think they are completely they're set up as a AAA studio going into the future, and they're going to be one that you cannot ignore going forward, right?
Yes, and I think it goes back to confidence, right? They have confidence in their vision, and they have confidence in how they're going to show you that vision. Sometimes it doesn't work to their full what they thought was their full potential. Quantum Break is your example there. And sometimes they're the only ones that know that it's going to wow the world when it comes out, as is Control. Here, both of those things sort of aligned, and it's meeting and exceeding expectations. And as you said, they are in the driver's seat now. It still boggles my mind that someone pointed this out in GameSpot chat a couple of days ago, that this game doesn't exist. And I'm sorry to say this to those who don't like it, without Fortnite money.
Yeah,
that Fortnite money gets them to fund this game, and now we're talking about it as a potential Game of the Year contender in a year that is more loaded than any year that I can remember as far as Game of the Year contenders are concerned. It's amazing, and I hope that hopefully the success of this will allow them to start maybe self-publishing, and they can become the next Larian, where they make their own stuff, they publish their own stuff, and it just knocks people away. Yeah,
Epic definitely deeply involved in this game. That's why it's exclusive on PC to the Epic Game Store. And I think this is the ideal scenario for what Epic should have been doing with that money all along. I get that when they were trying to get exclusives to the Epic Game Store, it's like you can't just wake up one day and be like, all right, we're publishing some games. It's like, oh, you got to ease into that. But it's like, from the beginning, they probably should have been trying to ease into it a bit quicker, because it took them a couple of years to get to the point where, like, all right, yeah, we're paying to keep games off Steam. What if we just actually took that money and shifted it earlier in the process and enabled developers to make games they otherwise wouldn't be able to create? And that ends us up here. And now it's like, instead of looking like kind of petty and trying to keep something off a store just to give yourself a little bit of an advantage, now they look like straight up good guys and backing up a creative studio to stretch their legs and really do something special and have a potential Game of the Year on your hands. Like, that is completely different. And I'm like, yeah, this is the way it should be done. I always had criticisms of how Epic was handling that stuff. They were minor criticisms. I wasn't going to freak out about a game being on Epic Game Store exclusively. But when they shifted to this model, I was like, no, bravo. This is right. No notes. You should work with these awesome studios that are out there that have kind of big budgets that they need, and you have a lot of money. That's a perfect pairing. Let's make it happen. So just kind of like win-win scenario for everyone involved here. Now, I don't know how much Alan Wake 2 is going to move people to Epic Game Store, but as it gets more accolades and is maybe considered for Game of the Year and shows up at the Keighleys or something, that does help it more and more. And we saw like It Takes Two, right? Sold 7 million copies, kind of, it was doing well, and then it got Game of the Year and sold even better. This game could easily get 5 to 10 million copies sold. And then if it becomes like this golden child of the horror genre, that scene is massive. It could get into like, easily above 10 million copies. So we'll see. I'm pulling for it because I really liked what I've played so far.
Yeah, and like I said, I like that Remedy is able to now maybe step into their own, and who knows what other new franchises they may include in this new connected universe that they're establishing. They may pull a fast one and like not let us kind of do like the Phantom Pain reveal thing where we don't know it's a Remedy game.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, bang, I can't wait.
Yes,
the sky's the limit.
They're working on a lot of games. I remember they're like going, like when Alan Wake 2 got announced, it was like, aren't you making like 4 or 5 other things as well? And they still are. So a lot of that stuff could get tied in. We'll see. I'm curious and excited to see what happens next with that studio.
Mm-hmm.
Sony defends PS Plus price hike, explains why it won't put games there day one. This comes from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. A top PlayStation boss has spoken out to defend the recent PlayStation Plus price increase and explains why the company does not bring its games to PlayStation Plus at launch like Microsoft does through Xbox Game Pass. Speaking of Barron's, which is like a financial news source, everybody, PlayStation Senior Vice President Eric Limpel was asked to justify the recent PS Plus price increase, which saw the premium tier go up by $40. Limpel said, like practically everything else in the world, we have to look at our pricing and we have to adjust to market conditions. We want to make PlayStation Plus great. With our reboot last year and introducing the tier system, a lot of consumers have recognized that there's a lot of value in PlayStation 5. Limpel further stated that Sony had not previously raised prices for 85% of the world in many years, which is a constant from other subscription services that regularly raise prices. Sony previously raised PS Plus prices in 2017. The new PS Plus price increases were announced in August this year, and I think everyone's kind of familiar with how those tiers worked out. For this first bit, I think we recognize this, but I do find it interesting that like it's not that recent. This happened a while ago, right? This price increases like a couple of months ago at this point. At least in my head it was. Maybe it's just a couple of weeks. Summertime, right? That's what I thought. and kind of still needing to be out there and defending it. It's a little bit interesting, but I suppose this is an interview with a source that's like, oh, we talk to you guys like once a year or something like that. This is the big questions. I do think that the price sort of a prospect of PlayStation Plus, man, it's a lot of P's, is it has been questionable. When they raised the price, I think people were considering, I think I cancel. I don't have it right now. I'll get back into it if I need to play an online game, or if suddenly the subscription games start looking really good again. But overall, it doesn't seem like it's hurt Sony too much, right? Yeah, they're in a position where maybe they do have to defend themselves a little bit, but most people are saying, I bought a PS5, why wouldn't I have PS Plus, right?
Right. No, I agree with you. And you'll always have those loyalists who are just going to support them in everything that they do. Especially, like you said, the people who are buying the PS5. It does offer a substantial amount of value, especially in those upper tiers with older games and stuff like that. But I still do not understand why this was necessary, especially, and we'll get into the second half of this in a minute. That second half is a huge caveat as to why this will always seem inferior to Xbox's offering. Xbox does the day one thing, and as long as Sony continues to say no, they're not going to do that, that's going to be a problem for them, at least in optics. And they also, I feel like they still need to expand their retro library a little bit more.
Yes.
The PS1, PS2 stuff is great,
and that's the top tier. That's the most expensive tier, is where you get those classic games,
right.
and it's slim pickings.
It's slim pickings. There's a couple of heavy hitters in there that I think still need to show up before that becomes like essential. But right now, yeah, I still don't see it. I didn't cancel it, but I still don't see why it's necessary.
Yeah, I think that so we got the essentials, then we have extra. I think I can never remember the name of the tiers, and then the top one is the most expensive, like $18 a month or something like that. You could pay yearly, save a little bit, but it was a pretty big increase there as well. And that's where you get the classic retro games, and it's just that even like before the price increased, that always looked like a weird positioning of the product. And now with the price increase, it was very easy to be like, oh, I know what you've been doing with this top tier. I'm just going to pull back to the second tier. And I think a lot of people probably ended up doing exactly that, because on the second tier, you do get a lot of relatively new games that are still pretty expensive, and you get them in big bunches all added to that PS Plus service. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I think, for a lot of people who are buying a couple games per year. You're buying your Call of Duty, your NBAs, and maybe one other game that like the marketing really hits you or something. But if you have PS Plus extra, then you can like, okay, well, I missed this stuff from last year. I can catch up, and that I think it does work for a large number of people. But I think overall, Sony's messaging on this wasn't clear, and I think it's because the way that they are offering up, it isn't very good, at least once you get to that top tier. So they're kind of just like, we would try to convince you to go up there, but really, here's a bunch of cool games in this middle tier. Just go there if you want. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said before, the retro is not enough. And also, too, there's something to be said about people who don't want an infinite backlog, right? Mm-hmm. So people who, they just want to play their games and that's it. And even that might pull them away from that middle tier and just go to the essential tier after this price hike. Because they're like, look, I'm not playing these games as much as I want to. They're just sitting there in my library or sitting there in the PS Plus menu for me to look at, but I'm not taking advantage of it. So why, when I'm already playing games, if I'm at the front of the line with new 2023 titles, why am I even worrying about things that I haven't played a couple years ago and I just don't have time for? So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that a lot of people shifted downward both steps, if maybe just one.
Yep, and then you still need PlayStation Plus of some variety to play online, so that's going to get a lot of people through Call of Duty and stuff like that. That's honestly still the biggest probably mover and shaker for the whole subscription service, which is why they were so worried about Call of Duty that entire time that Microsoft was acquiring Activision. Okay, this continues here. Also in the Barron's interview, Lynn Pell was asked for his thoughts on Xbox Game Pass, and specifically how the company launches its first-party games into the catalog. Sony does not do this with PlayStation Plus. Lynn Pell said PlayStation Plus is very different from Game Pass, but he wouldn't be drawn into talking about launching first-party PlayStation games on PS Plus. It comes down to what you're going to get in the service in terms of the type of game and the quality of games. I can't comment on what the competition is doing, but with us, we feel we're offering a great curated catalog of games, as well as other features and services with PlayStation Plus. It's a very different offering, but it's one that resonated with consumers. Since we introduced the tiers, we've seen a third of the PS Plus user base opt for the upper 2 tiers, which was more than we had expected. In 2022, then this is now no longer the quote. In 2022, outgoing PlayStation boss Jim Ryan said Sony does not put new games on PS Plus because the virtuous cycle of investment that leads to commercial payoff would be significantly derailed if Sony were to take that approach. And we know that like trying to make the math work can get fuzzy once you start putting stuff in there, but that's not our problem, right? We look at the offerings here, and when we see it, it's like, hey, this does look pretty weird compared to what Xbox is doing. And yet I do go back to, I don't think necessarily most people are looking at it that way. I think even if you have both consoles, you have a primary console. For a lot of people, that probably is going to be PlayStation, and they've been happy to buy those big games. Like this year, like if you were a PlayStation 5 owner and primarily playing on the PlayStation 5, you got your third-party games there, but you're waiting for that big Sony release, and there hasn't been a ton of those this year. Now you get Spider-Man, and that's $170 payment. I think most people are probably fine with that, and as long as that like momentum continues to carry, I don't see Sony shifting things up too much, even if it does look weird to us from the outside when we do a side-by-side comparison. What do you think?
Yeah, I think being, so ingrained into the industry as we are, we forget about those people who only buy 1 or 2 games a year. So they're only buying the first parties, they're only buying the sports games. So when we sit here and think, well, why aren't they doing exactly what Xbox is doing and offering it to everyone day one? Some people just aren't subscribed, or they're only subscribed for the online tier, so they wouldn't benefit from that anyway, right? And they don't think it's as much of a worthy investment or virtuous cycle here, as Jim Ryan said, probably right out of a Metal Gear Solid Delta presentation. But yeah, so I get where they're coming from, but also, again, as I said before, optics do not look good. And these quotes right here sound to me like Sony is treating first-party games day one on PlayStation Plus as a giant red break glass in case of emergency button.
Yeah,
like we used
I
to
agree.
say Square did with Square Enix. Like you find it Among Us, the big emergency meeting, and when they're ready or when they think they have to, then they'll say this first-party game is coming to PS Plus day one, and it won't be a top tier like quadruple A game like a Spider-Man 2 never had a chance, or a new God of War, for example, Ragnarok never had a chance. They may do it with like the next what was it, Destruction All-Stars.
Destruction All-Stars,
like,
yeah.
Something like that, like a second tier, maybe like a indie published sort of idea. This will be on PS Plus day one. It's technically first party, but it's not, that sort of thing. It's just to test the waters and see how many people are actually downloading it. And then if they find it worthy, then they'll open the floodgates. But I think it's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think live service games are going to happen relatively soon. Maybe not like right away. But then like the next tier up, like the thing between the things that benefit from having everyone playing and have a lot of microtransactions and free-to-play commerce stuff built in, and then God of War at the top. Like they have a couple of games in between there. Maybe some of those start sneaking in on day one. I think for the most part, though, they're going to be happy to just be like, the live service games make a ton of sense. Obviously, like Rocket League, go back to that, debuted on PS Plus.
Yep.
And that benefited greatly from that. Sony knows that. They see those numbers. They were deeply involved in that. They'd be like, okay, when it's time to start launching our live service games, we are going to be on top of that for sure. But yes, God of War, Spider-Man, still no, and probably not till like the next system, if at all, because for them, like having the subscription numbers, very beneficial to smoothing over the transition from one system to another. And if they feel the need to that's when they might need to like break the glass, because otherwise I don't see them being in that situation.
Now, what they could do too also is they have their live service games. If you just have the essential, you can play online, they're free to play, but you don't get anything. The next tier, if you're on extra tier or premium tier, you get extra content right up, whether it's microtransaction currency or extra skins, extra whatever. And they could tier it that way. That would encourage people who think if they try it in the essential tier and they're like, okay, yeah, this is badass, I'm going to play this for a long time. Then maybe they decide to bump up to PS Plus for that extra cosmetics if they're a whale or easily influenced like I am every time Fortnite unveils a new skin. I'm running around as Jack Skellington, I will admit it. But yeah, so I can see the strategy here. The strategy does sort of make sense. But to the most diehard of fans, the optics next to Xbox putting Starfield on their day one are just not going to compare until they decide to make that change.
Yep. All right, but we can also see why Sony maybe is making some of these decisions, because they feel pretty confident because it is expecting one of its strongest seasons ever in terms of console sales. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Sony Interactive Entertainment is expecting one of its strongest seasons ever for the PlayStation console sales this holiday. That's according to SIE Senior Vice President and Head of Global Marketing Eric Lempel, who told Barron's via Reset Era that this will be the first Christmas shopping season that anyone who wants to buy a PS5 will be able to find one. Our outlook on PlayStation 5 is really strong, he said. We're expecting one of the strongest seasons in our history in terms of console sales. It's a combination of the great product we have and the titles that have released since launch, as well as the most recently with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Basically, they are saying, hey, the console's in strong supply. We have tons of supply, and we have a bunch of good games built up, and then Spider-Man 2 is one of the biggest things releasing in the world. And all that's true, and very likely that this is going to work out exactly as they're expecting. That's, how the console generations typically go anyhow, where as you're about, this should be one of the biggest seasons ever for PlayStation 5, even like once we get to the end of the generation, look back. Next year will probably be even bigger. That's usually how it goes. 3 years in, it's still growing. 4 years in, it's still growing. Maybe starts to trail off at year 5. Probably not anymore, because these days the console generations are even longer. So yeah, this should all line up, and this should put the PS5 well back under that train of outpacing the PS4 and being the fastest selling PlayStation console of all time. So that explains a lot of their decision making, right? If you have something that's selling like this, you can be more restrained with the things that you're doing to get people entangled in other ways of paying, right?
Yeah, and first of all, it's about time, right? 3 years it took them to finally get where they want to be. Anybody who can get one can get one. The bundles will help. The new slimmer model will help, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I think they are in a good position, and there are even like some things that were out of their control that are tipping in their favor. I think of Baldur's Gate 3. That's only on one home console right now because of whatever's going on the Xbox side. You can only play that on a console on PlayStation 5. So someone who's an RPG fan or a D&D fan who's making that decision about consoles this year, that may sway them to PlayStation 5, and that's an unforced error on Xbox part, as I understand it. So they have Spider-Man 2, which just came out. The games that have already come out so far, Horizon is very good. God of War is very good. People who have waited on them now might be able to get them cheaper, or they get Spider-Man 2 in a bundle and then get those games later on. There are a couple things we have not talked about yet. 2 letters in particular we'll get into. That's an interesting little question mark. But so far, yeah, I think this is they're getting on pace, as you said, to outsell PS4, and this and next year will kind of cement that as what's going to happen.
Yep, I think this also says to me that, hey, that PlayStation Plus Slim, there's going to be a ton of those, because the idea is the PlayStation 5 Slim is supposed to replace the original model for both physical and digital, right? Eventually, as it phases out. I guess maybe that's a bigger reason why they'll have plenty, is because they're going to have all of the previous supply as well as this new supply coming in at the same time. But my guess here is no, the PS5 Slim probably much easier to produce, and they have been running those machines nonstop, so it should be good to go. And yeah, like you said, anyone who wants one should be able to find one, and that will be very different even than last year, where things started to get better, but really it was this year that things finally settled down fully, and now you could walk into a store and see these things on shelves, and which I've seen multiple times now.
Yeah, and I feel like I've heard less even already this early holiday season of people not being able to get consoles than I ever have in the last 3 years since PS5 has come out. I don't think I've seen anybody yet, which is pretty cool.
I think we are fully on the other side of that. That's what it seems like.
Sure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we got a lot more news. We'll talk about what's happening maybe with Dragon Quest. We'll see what Nintendo has to say about why it's so quiet about that Mario voice actor stuff, all after this. And we're back, and we're talking about Dragon Quest announcement could be imminent. This is from My Nintendo News. The Dragon Quest team has a number of games up their sleeves, but the one we are waiting for is the next mainline Dragon Quest video game, Dragon Quest XII, The Flames of Fate. Yosuke Saito, the producer behind Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age, has teased fans on social media platform Twitter by saying that this has that his team had a super fun recording session today and that it was a long one. He concluded by saying that he will let us know more once it is okay to share a full announcement, so we will have to wait a little longer to see which Dragon Quest game the announcement is for. We had a fun recording session at work. It was a long one, but it was fun. I'll let you know when I get the okay to make the announcement. People have been expecting Dragon Quest 12 news for a while now. Probably not going to happen before the end of this year, but could happen very soon. And this game could be out relatively quickly after that. I'm thinking probably by the end of next year. Are you a Dragon Quest fan? Does this news excite you?
I appreciated Dragon Quest in the past. DS was like my Dragon Quest era.
Sure.
That's when I played
Some good
the
games
most.
on there.
And 4 in particular, 5 was very, very good. I do think, though, that I don't see this game coming out until holiday of next year, if only because Square Enix doesn't want to cannibalize its other huge release coming out early. Now, maybe you see a quick tease at the Keeleys, or maybe you see a quick tease at a State of Play early in the year, like a February, January area, but I wouldn't expect a huge reveal on this until maybe Summer Game Fest or sometime in the summer, and then leading into a holiday release in that sense. But yes, more core Dragon Quest games are always good, just to see how they change up their own formula. A lot of people see them and think they're all just normal, not normal standard JRPGs, but I've always thought they had a lot of special things going for them. Have not played 11 yet. That's very much on my ever-growing backlog. That's one I do want to get into. I had it on Game Pass, but I think it went away, so I missed the boat there. But yeah, more Dragon Quest is always good. And I have to say, I always love when producers and even voice actors are allowed to make little teases like this, just to rekindle the flame.
Just say, yeah, we're working on it. If you want to have something to talk about, here's a little something. It's good.
Yeah, because silence sucks, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear about this game and all of a sudden it's all thrown in your face. Just some breadcrumbs would be nice once in a while. And Dragon Quest fans seem to have one. That's very nice.
I do wonder if saying it's a recording session, maybe that implies that some English stuff for Dragon Quest X offline may be coming here. I don't know if that would be the case. I don't know a lot about Dragon Quest X, the online version versus the offline version. But maybe that's what he's teasing here. That could be cool as well. Although Dragon Quest 12 is the big one. I played a lot of Dragon Quest 11. I didn't beat it or anything. Didn't get anywhere close to doing that, but I started it up when I was on paternity leave a couple years ago. God, a while ago now, 4 years ago. And just sort of accidentally played 15 hours of it. But when I was like, I'm just going to check this out. And then I kept playing because it was so much fun. So if I played 15 hours of Dragon Quest, that means it's a really good game. And people should definitely check that one out while you wait for Dragon Quest 12. All right, Nintendo of America president on secrecy surrounding a new Mario voice actor. This is from Nintendo Everything. Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser has briefly commented on the secrecy surrounding the new Mario voice actor. The company announced in August that Charles Martinet, who held the role for many years, would be moving on. However, Nintendo left fans guessing as to who would be taking over the part. It wasn't until just a few days before the release of Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out that we learned that Kevin Afghani was given the role, and that came from his own personal social media account. Doug Bowser had this to say about the secrecy while speaking with Wired. We want people to enjoy the gameplay experience, and if they enjoy the voice behind the gameplay experience, that's the most important to us, not necessarily highlighting Mario's actor. I think they're slowly revealing, we actually didn't want people always thinking about Charles Martinet and instead of thinking about Mario. And even though they're keeping Martinet around as an ambassador, and they're kind of people asking about Martinet or whatever, people asking about the voice actor, that's not what we want. We want to avoid that. I think this is Nintendo being weird for no real good reason, because who does this hurt? Nintendo, chill out about this stuff. We like the people behind the stuff that make the things that we like. Of course we do. And so we want to support them, or we want to celebrate them. And you getting weird about that and pretending like all these games are made by little elves inside of trees, it continues to be odd. I don't know. How do you read this?
Now, I wonder, and this may just me be, thinking about the negative aspects of social media. If they had come out and announced him immediately, right when they announced that Charles Martinet wasn't coming back, I don't know how well that would have went for him.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah.
So I wonder if they were just waiting for him to do it naturally, or for his name to be in the credits and allow it to just happen organically, even when he did announce it on his own social media account. That wasn't entirely great if you went and looked.
Yeah.
So I think that secrecy actually benefited him.
Yes.
However, I do agree with you. Why are you so weird? Between the tournament the tournament announcement earlier this week, the community tournament announcement, don't you be spilling your milk on your controller while you're playing in our tournaments. Good Lord. And now this, I will never understand why they do weird stuff like that. I do, according to with the not necessarily highlighting Mario's actor, it almost sounds like they want him to be Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know who Mickey Mouse's voice actor is? Well, you might because you're a dad and you see the credits all the time.
Christy Montopoulos? I can't. Some Greek name. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't know who Mickey Mouse's voice is, it's been the same voice since the 20s or the 30s when he started talking.
Yeah, right.
So if that's what they're going for now that Martinet is gone, fine. But say that. Say that you're just, we're not putting as much emphasis on him anymore. No offense to Martinet. He's our ambassador now. He's going to go kiss the babies and shake the hands and all that. But from now on, the voice is so ubiquitous and so not easy to recreate completely. Afghani did a great job. Let's not say that. But, I kind of get if they want to go the Mickey Mouse route. It's because he's such a big role. But just come out and say that. Just stop being weird.
Exactly, yes. I think when they were explaining Martinet is retiring and is going to be ambassador, and the Martinet's, I don't know what that means. It's clearly there's other motivations here. And yeah, I do think Nintendo should be more clear with their motivations when they are trying to explain this, especially when it involves real people's livelihoods and all this stuff. But yeah, I agree. Kevin Afghani did a great job.
Great job.
Really just loving Wonder. Continue to love Wonder. And when he says Wowie Zowie, I'm like, that's not been said before. And then I'm like, no, that's great. Give me more Wowie Zowies. That's good stuff.
The flower talking all throughout the different stages is great. I know it was in the trailer, but I still laughed when look at that guy, and then you kill. It's like, oh well, then okay. Yeah. I guess we're not gonna leave him alone.
It's really, it's well comedically timed, and it's really I don't know, it's cute, and it's never too much because it's one line per level, maybe a couple lines, but it's very small stuff, and it's over before once you realize he's talking. He's almost already done. So it's it's just a quick little comment thrown out. And it's not anywhere near obnoxious. I'm actually really impressed that they were able to strike that balance of we're going to be throwing these kind of these jabs out there. And they're not necessarily at you, the player, but it's hey, commenting on what's happening. And it's never weird or obnoxious. That's tough to pull off. And they really, really did.
Awesome. I like it a lot.
All right, a couple more stories here. Insomniac apologizes as it patches out Spider-Man 2's Cuban flag the Cuban flag mistake. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. A new patch is rolled out for Spider-Man 2, which fixes the flag in Miles Morales' home. Since the game's release, players had been pointing out that Miles had a large draped on one of the walls of his house, and it had appeared to be the national flag of Cuba. However, Miles and his family have no connection to Cuba and are of Puerto Rican descent instead. The flags of Puerto Rico and Cuba have a similar design, with each featuring 5 stripes and a triangle on the left-hand side and a star in the middle. Their colors are different, however, with the Cuban flag having a red triangle and blue stripes, with the Puerto Rican flag triangle having blue stripes, and the Puerto Rican flag having a blue triangle and red stripes. I'm not great with flags. I understand how this happens, and yet it's man, that's a bummer. But they came out and they said, hey, today's patch corrects an error where the Cuban flag was incorrectly displayed instead of the Puerto Rican flag. We understand that accurate representation matters and greatly regret this error. We sincerely apologize and will do better in the future. And what else can you say? It's a game that does take pride in its representation, and rightfully so. It does a really good job. There's some real great authentic culture in this game from a variety of places, whether it's representing Harlem or representing these characters and their family and their heritage. So a mistake like this is going to stand out. But I also think most players hey, this doesn't look great, but we give you the benefit of the doubt. We do. If you want to come out and apologize, you should. And here it is. Here's the apology. No excuses. They just straight up said, this is our bad. We're going to fix it. This is the right thing to do, of course. And I'm glad that we're at a place where studios can be yes, we will fix this and we're sorry. Right?
Yeah. Blueprint, absolute blueprint for how other gaming companies should do this going forward. It was an honest human mistake from someone who may not be familiar with flags. As you said, they immediately saw the feedback, addressed it, and it's already fixed. And now everyone can move on. There was nothing insidious behind it. There was nothing, it wasn't controversial by any means. They just made a mistake. They came out, said they greatly regretted it. Their apology is great, and I don't think anybody's going to hold it against them. There may be some jokes, between now and the end of the year, but eventually people are just going to forget it even happened.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm with you on this. This is how if when simple stuff like this that can be easily fixed, and maybe was just someone not knowing the difference between two things in a culture. Flags, some flags are very similar. Ivory Coast and Ireland, believe it or not, are almost identical. So that's it. It's a mix-up. It happens. It's human error, and I'm glad that it was able to be fixed quickly and addressed so succinctly. This is how it should be done from here on out.
Yeah. At a certain point, your brain just fills in the blanks too, and you like walk past the flag in the game. You're like, it's supposed to be the Puerto Rican flag, so it's the Puerto Rican flag, and you don't even like look at it all that closely. I see how it happens. It's and I'm glad they came out, apologized, and you're right. By the end of the year, we won't remember it.
Right.
City Skyline 2 developer provides an update on performance issues and post-release plans. This comes from George Yang at GameSpot. City Skyline 2 developer Colossal Order has provided an update about the game's post-release plans and its goals going forward. This includes targeting a solid 30 frames per second with the game, as well as fixing performance issues. Colossal Order said that it's working on improvements to the game, such as removing stutters, optimizing and balancing GPU performance, and pushing CPU optimizations. The studio is also looking at expanding the options for upscaling solutions. Both FSR2 and DLSS2 require the use of temporal anti-aliasing, which is not possible at the moment due to some objects being incompatible with that technique, Colossal Order said in a forum post. We are currently working towards making this possible, which will not only help to boost performance, but also provide a better quality anti-aliasing solution than the one we currently use. Furthermore, Colossal Order wants to aim for a steady 30 frames per second for the game. As it explains, there isn't any really long-term benefit for a city builder to aim for a higher one, unlike other genres such as a multiplayer shooter. I think that makes some sense, Jason. Where it's like, oh yeah, hey, we like our fidelity, and you don't need to have every frame for performance. I still hope it's relatively easy to get above 30 frames per second. I still like it in a lot of games, even when it's not necessary for performance, like player performance. This game is far away from 60 frames per second, though, so getting the 30 frames per second would be real nice. How are you feeling these days about a game coming out like this in a busy time of year, and being full price, ready to go, and kind of feeling like it's in early access still?
Not great. I mean, all they had to do was say early access, or even call it a beta, right?
Yep.
And fix these things with a live environment and people in the game. With a game like this, I feel like those frames are more beneficial when you can like zoom in on each street and see the little people living their lives. And I want that too. I want 30 or even 60 if you can do that, or to zoom in and see them. But like, yes, to get back to your question, this it feels off. Something about this, between the warning that they gave last week, where they were flat out like, this is not going to launch the way you might want it to, but we're doing it anyway. And now this, something is rotten in Denmark. I don't know what it is, but
this is Paradox, right? And I think Paradox is kind of feeling a crunch in terms of maybe the availability of capital and being able to move from one project to the next. And they just had Lamplighters League, and they let that studio go, and they're already writing that game off basically. So it doesn't seem like Paradox is in a great situation. That seems to be a not common, but something that has happened frequently with a lot of publishers in Europe right now, where maybe they are feeling a little bit more of the slam of inflation and a slowing down economy than some of the publishers in other parts of the world, where it's like, Japan seems mostly okay right now, and a lot of publishers in the United States, they're laying people off, but they're not like shutting down a ton of studios. But Embracer's like, no, it's fire sale. Everything's gone bad, and obviously we know what's gone wrong with Embracer, and it doesn't seem like Paradox is in that situation, but they're on that spectrum somewhere. And it seems like that means a game like City Skylines 2 has to come out. It's okay. That's not great, but hopefully they can kind of push through it and fix the game up and get it to a point where it's going to, and they probably will. I think so. I think City Skylines 2, the people that have played it so far that I've talked to, seem to think, hey, fundamentally, the underlying game here is very good. I like a lot about it, but I just wish it ran better. It's like, okay, well, that does seem like something they're going to be able to get to. And then all the stuff about, and all the DLC that I got with the last game, that was never going to work, but it doesn't work. So kind of waiting around to see how they support this game. They will probably support it as well, but first they just got to get it running at a decent clip. I mean, people are running this thing on pretty powerful GPUs and getting 15 frames per second. That's just not going to work for most people. So we'll see.
They're banking on the goodwill of their fan base, right? They know that they have
right. They're
a loyal
exchanging the
fan
goodwill
base,
for like a little bit of like, can we get some money now? Because we got to
which is
sell this
risky.
thing. Yeah,
That's risky because that goodwill is
playing
not
with fire.
infinite or permanent. And if they keep screwing up, that's going to hurt them.
And they did have a lot of goodwill, right? Because City Skylines was the game that provided that genre a beacon of light at the top of the hill after Sim City in 2013. So it's like, okay, I get it. Like, you did all that work and that effort to build up that goodwill, but it's very easy to lose that stuff. So we'll see. I don't think they've burned it quite yet, but they do got to fix this up, and pretty quickly.
Correct.
2 more stories here. 8 years later, Batman Arkham Knight just got a new movie bat suit. This is from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. 8 years after release and several years since it last received a new addition to the Bat wardrobe, Batman Arkham Knight has been updated with a brand new set of threads for the Caped Crusader to wear while he rearranges the teeth of criminals running loose in Gotham. Or technically a new Pat suit. Over on the Epic Game Store version of Arkham Knight via Geek Vibes Nation, owners of that game can dress up as Robert Pattinson's incarnation of the Dark Knight, who first appeared in 2022's The Batman film. This doesn't appear to be a mod that has been slipped into the game, but a brand new costume that has officially been added as an optional outfit that can be worn throughout Batman's battle against Arkham Knight. So what's the deal here? Rocksteady hasn't made any mention of the costume on its social channels yet, and there's no hint of it being inserted into the game at all, making this a complete surprise. The one theory is that it's linked to the upcoming Switch release of the Batman Arkham Trilogy, which was originally meant to launch on October 26th before it was delayed to December 1st. That seems like a reasonable explanation here, that they wanted to put a little bit extra in there for the Switch release, and of course, why wouldn't you then put that everywhere else? But that's still, it's weird. I don't know. Robert Pattinson, the Batman suit in an 8-year-old game. Video games have changed a lot to the point where like this does make some sense, but it's just like for a game that's kind of was dormant for years to then get one new small piece of DLC out of nowhere. Strange, right?
It is strange, but also breaking news to Game Mess Mornings, IGN reporting that the suit is now removed.
Oh, okay. Yes,
it wasn't supposed to be there.
It seems like it wasn't supposed to pop in there, right? So yes, it's removed. Probably going to drop now when this game comes to the Switch, if it is going to drop it. I mean, this is not going to disappear forever and just be like, oh, that was weird. This is something, right?
Yeah, maybe it's some sort of weird viral test or viral marketing test to see if they could do that. Like,
maybe
pull the plug out real quick. But no, this definitely seems like it wasn't supposed to be there. The fact that they're adding it to a nearly decade-old game is very weird, unless there's some other, aspect to it, which could be the trilogy. I think honestly they didn't change the. When the scheduled tweet, they didn't change the date.
Right, that's what it seems like.
If it was supposed to come out today and then it didn't, but then the suit dropped and it did, they forgot to move the scheduled tweet to December.
Yep,
1st.
exactly. Someone just did that, and they're like, "All right, we're good," and then they didn't think about it again, which I totally see how that happens. So I think you're 100% about that. But this also says to me though, like, hey, don't expect another like Batman game anytime too soon. That's going to be several years off where we could have put a suit like that in there. Instead, let's just put it in the old game, right?
Yeah. Well, they're busy Suicide Squadding too, right?
They're very busy Suicide Squadding. Man, I keep forgetting that game. 1 was ever coming out. 2 hasn't come out, and 3 is still coming out early next year. So yeah,
hard to believe.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, I'll play it. I'll give it a fair shake, but I just have no interest in it as we stand right now. I have
one interest in it, and that's Samoa Joe as King Shark.
Yes. Hey, shout out to Samoa Joe.
That's as far as I. Yeah,
wild that he gets
that. I'm just like,
wild that he's a voice in a video game for a comic book character, but in a TV show of a video game, he's just the body, and then someone else does the voice when he played Sweet
He's
Tooth.
taking over.
Yep,
Samoa Joe's taking over,
as he should. He should.
Damn well should.
All right, then Disney Dreamlight Valley leaving early access in December will not go free to play. This comes from Jason Fanelli over at GameSpot.
Dude.
Yeah, pretty good dude. With over a year of early access time now logged, Gameloft has announced that Disney Dreamlight Valley, the Animal Crossing-esque life sim featuring a who's who of Disney characters, will fully launch globally on December 5th. However, the news comes with a major caveat. Despite originally being touted as a free-to-play title, Gameloft has changed course and elected not to go that route anymore. Jason, go ahead and explain the rest of it. Like, what do you know what their thinking was? What do they say about this? Did they give an explanation? And is the explanation, we see how people like Jan Ochoa play our game, and we know we can get more money from them. We can get more money from Jan.
So the blog post that they put up, and I'll bring it up here as we're talking, they basically, there's a whole paragraph about it where it basically sounds to me like they had, or they thought they had, two options. They were either going to make it free to play and charge for every update,
Right.
when they had already sent a precedent that free content updates were going to be the thing, or they were going to keep it at a premium, entry fee, but then still be able to produce free content updates. Now, that makes sense to me. But later on in the blog, they also say that the next major update is a paid expansion.
Huh.
So it's paid story, it's extra characters and all that. So those two things don't jive.
Yeah,
Now,
does it sound like they're gonna have like bigger paid expansions, and then but like maybe those will still come with like free aspects that everyone gets? Like, how does it seem like it's gonna work?
So this next one, they're revealing it, the full details next week. It's called A Rift in Time. The image that we see shows like Agrabah and Gaston and Eve from Wall-E. Rapunzel is back there. So, and it looks like the Dreamlight Valley is actually being taken over by some of these lands.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if like they're starting to bleed in. If you finished the early access season's storyline, which I highly recommend you do. It actually goes some pretty deep places regarding growing up. I was very surprised. There's like a teaser on the wall of like, you see the Dreamlight Valley, and then it's pointing to these floating islands. How do we get there? And then Jafar's shadow appears, kind of like teasing what's going on in future. So yes, it's a very complicated lore here in Dreamlight Valley. But I'm guessing that they're going to make the big expansion story with brand new biomes and brand new places to play paid expansions like this. It does say expansion pass, so that may include a bunch of things, but still have smaller updates, be they like the occasional character who doesn't fit in, or say a new movie comes out and it gets very, very popular with the fan base, and they want to insert something like how Encanto Mirabelle was added in.
Right.
I feel like was not added in earlier than they expected to. Even though she came out this year, I think. So I kind of get their vision. But the problem for me is the whole, yes, we're still going to offer free content, but we'll also have this big expansion pass. That there's a clarity there that needs to be presented by Gameloft, and maybe this November 1st live stream will do that.
Right.
But right now, there's a lot of confusion. I was in the Discord for Dreamlight Valley before we got on here. Yes, I am a card-carrying Dreamlight Valley Discord member. And mixed at best is how I would put reaction to this announcement. I mean, they got some explaining to do.
Right. Yeah, this does feel like, hey, we had a plan. We didn't necessarily get hit in the mouth, but we have we got smacked a little bit with reality of like what the appetite is for games these days that are constant and that you're always playing. And we found an audience, and Disney Dreamlight Valley was a success, but once the rubber met the road, we saw like, hey, it makes more sense to do this, and it's not what we plan to do, and it's probably not what you were expecting, and maybe it's not the thing that everyone would prefer, but it's the one that enables this game to keep going. So they're going to try to put as pretty of a dress on it as possible, I would imagine. And it doesn't seem like the end of the world either. Like, hey, if fans want this game, most of them will probably be like, okay, if this is what has to happen, fine, right?
Right. Yeah, and the good thing is, this game was never free to play. It started as a founders pack to get in. So anyone who's already playing it right now has already paid their entry fee.
Exactly.
And everything carries over. So nothing's getting lost. That is a good thing.
Right. So that helps them like maintain like, hey, no, we're just not going to change anything to what we said we were originally going to change it to. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But those people still have to pay the expansion pass fee. So that's where the jive is. That's where the messaging is clashing, and that's what needs to be ironed out.
Yep.
What will be free? What will free content be later on? Are you going to gate all of your character additions behind these major expansion
that has not happened so far?
No, every character has been free in this early access so far that has been added, and it went from like a roster of 10 to now like over 20, if my memory serves. So there's a ton of people in there, or characters in there, and for them to now decide, no, only new additions are going to be gate kept behind expansion passes, that's not going to go well. So they may have already opened Pandora's box, and they're trying to find a way to close it again, and that just might not happen. So we'll see.
Last little bit of news here, breaking. This comes from the GB Duders feed on Twitter. People in Honkai Star Rail are rioting because they think the devs made a character's ass smaller as part of a new costume and character update. So we'll get more details about that next week, I'm sure. And really,
the chat the chat was exploding about butts, and I had no idea what was going on. But now
It's just that's just normal for chat. They're always exploding for butts in chat. That's what's happening over there. But hey, yeah, someone's got to do something. Stop the button shrinking. That's it's a terrible.
Free the butts.
It's an epidemic of smaller butts, and we will not stand for it.
All over again.
All right, we have a poll question from yesterday. I'm going to bring that up right now. Have you played the original Alan Wake before? I have, but only a little bit. But I'm going to say yes because that counts. 58% say yes, 42% said no. Holy shit, that's a lot of people saying yes. That's 3,000 votes. That's a lot of Alan Wake fans out there. You guys are out there like representing. I would imagine that's going to be beneficial. I mean, listen, that game's been everywhere at this point and re-released and on sale a million times. And it is like a spooky game, the kind of thing you could revisit every year. So I'm not too surprised a lot of people have played this. But I think my question going into Alan Wake 2 is, are people who haven't played Alan Wake 2 going to show up for that game? It sounds like it doesn't matter. Most people have a history with Alan Wake, and they're going to hop right into it. So, yeah.
As someone in chat points out, I think the fact that they released Control got that fan base, and then were released remastered. So people went back to get their mind right, and now going into Alan Wake 2, that was a very smart sequencing by Remedy. They're just firing on all cylinders, man. They're really,
yes, they've got the synergy going between their various stuff, and that's really working out for them. All right, I have a new poll question that we will ask and answer on Monday. But first, Jason, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
So you can find me on Twitter or X. What are we calling it now? Whatever.
I just call it
whatever
Twitter.
It is today. Me too. Big Man Fanelli. That's where you get my musings about video games and Philadelphia sports and pro wrestling and all that good stuff. So follow me on there if you like what you see here. A couple of I'm writing news for GameSpot regularly. You'll see my byline there. A couple of reviews in the pipeline. A couple things, like I said, that I got code late on. You'll see me on mmorpg.com. Please support them. Joe Bradford, great dude over there. And yeah, that's where I spend the most of my time. Happy to be here. Hope I can be back again soon.
Absolutely.
And yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate you helping us out with Tam out. Oh yeah, what's up?
I'm so sorry. I have a podcast. I am an idiot.
Yeah. What's the podcast? Tell people about it.
I have a podcast called Cheesesteaks and Controllers, Philadelphia Video Games and Esports. My most recent episode was this past Wednesday. Had Orange Cassidy, current AEW International Champion, came and talked to me for 20 minutes. He revealed to me the game that is the most stress-inducing in the locker room, and it is not AEW Fight Forever. So that's
okay, good teaser. I'm very curious now.
And then I also, in my second segment, I talked about my trip to Japan in August, because this was my first episode in 2 months. And then that ended with two of the Pokemon Unite broadcasters, Zoinks and Spraggles, separate interviews with them, talking about the Unite meta and the competition circuit there. Very, very cool stuff. Please go support that. It's wherever you get your podcasts.
Say the name again.
You're done listening. Cheesesteaks and Controllers. If you're done listening to Giant Bombcast, go listen to my stuff. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. We have a new poll question, and it is, wait, is Super Mario Brothers Wonder the best online game of the year? Yes or no? And I know my answer. Holy crap, that's a fun video game. We'll discuss that on Giant Bomb on Monday. Jan, do we have Monday off? For some reason, I feel like I think my kids are off school Monday, but I don't think we are. Maybe they just have an in-school work day or something like that. Okay, but we'll talk about it next week, regardless, on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, we will be having a UPF here in a little bit, and a whole bunch of other fun stuff happening on the website. And then, we'll get back into the swing of things next week. Till then, though, Jason, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. And a real quick shout out to Jan. Put my link to my Spotify podcast right there in the chat. So thank you, Jan. Appreciate you.
Shouts to Jan and shouts to you all. You are the best audience in gaming. Thank you for watching. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. Yeah. All right. Well done.